Welcome everybody to another episode of the Good Bit podcast. We are back after a little month-long hiatus in the summertime. It's a brand new season, and today we are chatting about the 1991 Steven Spielberg classic starring Robin Williams, Julia Roberts and Dustin Hoffman. It is Hook! And we are here, can you believe it, joined by Tyler Collins, my first guest back, or my first episode back after a wee summer break, taking a wee month off. No reason whatsoever, mainly just because I was in Tenerife and now I'm home. But we're here, another episode of The Good Bit. I'm with Tyler. Welcome to the show. How are you enjoying the summertime? Welcome to The Good Bit.
Thanks so much, Chris. I mean, all 7 days of the summer that we've had so far.
7? You mean 4 or 5?
I know. Well, we had 2 days in May, and then there was like 2 days in June. But I'm psyched. I'm going down to London next month, and
cool.
It's meant to be gorgeous down there.
Mate, honestly, it says, so I'm going down tomorrow. I'm going to see my mate tomorrow in London. A wee Friday to Monday trip. And it's like, be prepared for 40-degree weather.
Yeah, legit. It's like Scotland's getting rain and England's getting Tenerife. Yeah.
Well, I was in Tenerife a couple of weeks ago, and it was like, maybe it was like a really comfortable kind of Tenerife weather. You know, there'd be sometimes it's too hot. So it was around maybe like 30, 32.
Amazing.
Which is what you want. 40 is just
it's not happening. That's just stay inside, ice bath.
Stay inside. We're actually
you need a pool at that temperature. If you have a pool around, perfect, awesome. Jump in the pool, jump back out. It's great.
Totally. Had a wee pool when we were in Tenerife. It was lovely. It was like it wasn't big enough for like a swim because I'm quite tall, but you can always like dip in, and just chill out. So that was always nice. But yeah, so I'm going down to London tomorrow, and we're going to be recording episode 100 of the podcast. So it's a big celebration. So buzzing for that. I'm going to record with my original co-host that we started it with a few years ago. So that's going to be class. But what about you? Have you got any plans for the summertime? Any holidays planned? All in London?
No, I'm going down for a job in London, and I'll be down there pretty much for the next month, which would be great. I'm really psyched. And gonna see some friends when I'm down there, and it's one of those things when you go down to London for work, it's like it's joyous. It's all the little things that would normally aggravate you if you were going down to try and get work don't bother you as much because you're like, I get to go home after this.
right, and you can kind of relax knowing that you're going to be doing something there. It's not like you're looking for it.
Legit.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to going just to kind of for a wee couple of days away. We're going to get some ice cream, maybe go to the BFI, something like that,
nice.
Yeah. I don't even know. The issue is when a big movie comes out to the cinema, like Thor, for example, right? It like takes over everything. So like Thor's like the only thing on, apart from a few other things that have like one showing. Have you got to the cinema recently? You managed to see anything?
No, I haven't. I really wanted to get to the cinema to see Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
I really am gutted that I missed that in the cinema because I think that would have been a slightly different experience. And then, I've been just kind of having movie nights at home.
Yeah.
I invested in a TV a couple of years ago that is sort of home cinema style. Well, it's not home cinema style. It's just, it's big. It's bigger than it needs to be. But it was one of those, like, I went in to go and buy a TV and they were like, well, you could buy this one or you could buy last year's model, which is like another 10 inches and is the same price as this. And I was like, well, and I, at this point, only had a PS3. This was like this was pre-lockdown. So just before lockdown. And I was like, I'm not going to invest in a PS4 until I have something that is not a 24-inch LG that I bought 10 years ago.
Right.
I was like, I need, if the graphics are going to be worth it at all. Also, because now the games, everything's tiny. Like all the menu screen things you're trying to load and see if you've got a small TV. It's like, cool, never mind. Like, I guess
it's like FIFA. You can't see the ball. When
Yeah, legit. You're like, okay, never mind. I guess I can't play this game. I actually, there was something in Hook when I was watching it last night, and there was a detail I'd never seen before, but it was because I'd never seen it on a TV big enough to notice.
Right. Isn't that the best though? When you watch a film that you've seen a million times, and then it's bits pop out that you don't remember.
Oh, totally. Well, and I think as well for me watching Hook again and like actually sitting down to watch it, because there's so many times where it's been just on in the background, there's a few things that I hadn't really. I was like, I don't remember this bit. I was like, I remember it, but I don't internally remember it. And I've seen that film a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to get to that stage where I can, I'm quite bad at just like starting a film at a random point. I like to, watch the whole thing. If we're going to watch the film, we'll sit down and we'll watch it,
Yeah.
But when you get your favorite films of all time and they're like, you've seen them millions of times, you can just pop them on at any point. So I've got a few things like that, but I feel like if you don't know it really well, I kind of get distracted by different moments,
Yeah, totally.
So you mentioned just before lockdown that you got that TV. Did you have like a kind of lockdown show or a lockdown thing that you would binge while we were all kind of at home?
I burned our way through Westworld,
Nice.
which was amazing. There's a new series coming out of that as well. Oh gosh, what did we watch? The Good Place. I think I finally watched all of Kimmy Schmidt that I hadn't seen.
Cool.
A few other series. Oh, we watched like The Expanse and what was it that came out in lockdown? It was an Apple thing. I think, to be honest, Apple TV have been killing it for me.
It's so crazy how many streaming services are out there, but they all put out their own stuff too. You're like, how do you keep up?
Well, but honestly, like Apple's game is a lot stronger than Netflix right now.
Right.
Like as far as from my money, what was it called?
Ted Lasso?
Well, Ted Lasso, definitely. Like Ted Lasso is amazing. Mythic Quest, which is Rob McElhenney's show, who created It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And it's him and Charlie and Megan Gantz who write It's Always Sunny, and they write Mythic Quest. And it's like pathos and comedy, and the same thing that Ted Lasso did, where it was like halfway through the episode, you find yourself crying and you're like, why am I crying at people LARPing? Like at this point, and it's honestly, there's an episode where there's LARPing, and I was like, well, I don't know why I feel so emotionally invested in this. I should
you never watched that before, and it's like, whoa, why do I care so much?
Honestly, it's so good. And then the other one's the sci-fi, which I can't remember the name of. It's got Jared Harris and
I don't know.
Oh, it's really good. I need to look this up.
Hang on.
But it's based on it's an Isaac Asimov book, and Foundation. Thank you. They've been trying to make it for years and years, because it's one of the things that inspired Star Wars and all these other massive sci-fis. Like loads of things, like you watch it and go, oh, okay, that was definitely stolen from. But they also used some really interesting concepts, and from book adaptation to TV adaptation, like they've made some things. There's one big character that isn't in the books really, but they just did this really interesting allegory for rulers and kings, and just loves loads of really awesome nuance, and the way that they're shooting stuff is killing me. I need to watch Slow Horses. Jack Loudon was the year below me at the Academy, and watching him cutting about with Gary Oldman's like, yes, mate. Like, that's awesome.
It's so strange, isn't it, when you see people with
that is nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, well, so my lockdown show was Ozark. I don't know if you saw it.
I need to get on that. Yeah,
that was the one. I don't know why I just started it. I think maybe like the new season was coming out like in 2020, and I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll catch up with this. So that was my lockdown show, where it was like you had a routine, every day you were in the house, maybe go for a walk, and go in and watch Ozark. And then the final season was split into 2 parts, which I don't understand why people do that. Why the companies need this, but I understand it's like, we'll give a wee bit of anticipation for the next part coming out, but just do another season. Why does it need to be part 2? Especially with like Stranger Things recently, with like.
I heard recently with the Stranger Things split, it wasn't actually that they were it wasn't an intentional thing. They just weren't ready. The last 2 episodes were still in post-production, and they were just like, we need more time. So they were like, give us another month and we can tidy up all the CGI and all the little things that we need. And to be fair, I think it also played into their hands pretty well.
Absolutely.
And the way that season, the way that they marked it off, I think was quite smart, because the last 2 episodes were quite heavily, you needed to know what had happened, the spoilers that would have been through the first half. But it wasn't like an intentional, like, oh, we're going to split it up into two
Really?
seasons.
Okay,
They were just
cool.
like, we can't deliver this. We don't have a full series.
Was it intentional to make it like 2 hours each episode, like mini movies
I
almost?
don't know.
You
It
know?
must have been, because I mean, the thing is as well, it could have absolutely been 5 episodes.
Of course.
It could have been, and even like the points in the episode, they were probably written to be 5 episodes, and they were like, let's just make it all one.
Yeah, I think people like
then
that as well. You know?
Well, it means as well they don't have to build to like cliffhangers as much. They can let the story, like, let the natural tension of a moment happen, where you know,
Yeah.
because loads of great TV and film do that, where they'll take you with a character, leave you in a situation with them, and then leave them. And although somebody had done a TikTok, and it was this is spoilers for Stranger Things. When
Well,
they're
I've not seen it, but I'll take
you
my
not seen
earphones
it?
out. No, I'll take my earphones out. On you go.
Oh, never mind. But there's just one moment where like a group get kind of left for a while.
Okay.
And then like you come back to them like a half an episode or an episode later, and you're like, oh, they just been chilling there.
The whole time.
Yeah. You gotta, like, time doesn't really mean anything dramatically.
Yeah, I like watching things that are like in the buzz just now, you know, like relevant, so you can talk to people about it, you know.
Yeah.
And then Stranger Things comes out. Well, it didn't come out of nowhere, but like season 4, it almost as if everybody just loved it all of a sudden. You know, it was always a popular show, but I watched the first season when it first came out, and then I just didn't go back to it. But now it's like I got to go back to it. I want to start from the beginning and do a whole binge, you know. So that's my next. Now I finished Ozark, I'm going to go Stranger Things next, I think.
Oh, that's a good shout. Like, it's interesting because, like, I actually started this season going, I don't know. And then halfway through, I was like, well up for it. I was like, nah, I'm into it. But I have a friend who hates it. I have a friend who loves the first couple series, and he absolutely despises the new one. He's like, they've betrayed all the characters. And like, I mean, I could elaborate, but it was interesting. It's I think it's split some people, but the majority of the people that I speak to are like, yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah. I mean, as you say about the streaming services, I mean, they have that freedom to, you know, have as many parts of a season as they want, or have 2-hour finales and things like that. And you don't really need to cut anything out, because you don't need to worry about adverts. You don't need to worry about TV networks. You can do anything you want. And that's kind of, we are spoiled in this day and age with all the Marvel shows on Disney, with all the original stuff on Netflix, Amazon, Apple, YouTube now doing their own thing. Like, it's crazy, you know?
No, it is. I need to get on Succession. That's another one that everybody's been talking about.
That's up for lots of Emmys, isn't it?
Everybody's been saying, yeah. Oh, that was it as well, because we watched. Is it? It's not the network. Jennifer Aniston won. She won a.
Oh yeah, good. The morning show.
The morning show. The first season of that is awesome.
Is that really good?
Yeah, it's really good. Second season, I stopped halfway through because I felt like they'd kind of said what they were saying. Like, the whole first season is pretty perfect. And then afterwards, it was kind of like, where are you going to go with this? It's one of those end of a season kind of moments where you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What do we do
I
now?
hate that when like they can't follow up. If, for example, the show gets cancelled.
So big.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I was watching the show Glow, you know, about the wrestling. Is it Glorious Ladies of Wrestling? And like, it got cancelled in lockdown because it was like, production's too much just now. We have to be careful what we're spending. So I'd like watched the final episode of season 3 or something, and like this huge moment happened, and it's like, you know, when you're watching it, there's not going to be a payoff to this unless they bring it back years from now. You know, it's so frustrating sometimes, you know?
Totally. There's nothing better than when a series goes out on top, when they're like, yep, this is what we want to do. This is it. That was another one we watched, Afterlife.
Oh,
Ricky
me
Gervais
too.
Is,
man. So good.
But it was also, you know, I'm sure he could have kept going for series after series, and people would have been into it. It was really popular.
Yeah.
But same with Schitt's Creek. They could have kept going, but they were like, nope, this is the story that we wanted to tell.
Love that.
And so much people have so much respect for that, I think.
Yeah.
Like, because it is the sort of new long form storytelling, and like these Netflix things, or these series where you're getting. Game of Thrones was, you know, not even close to the first, but HBO were sort of pioneers, I think, of doing that long form series like a movie, where it's basically, you know, a 6-hour movie split over six parts. And it's interesting what you said as well about the like things that were structured originally for TV with those commercial breaks, and we still kind of use that structure. So like in TV format in LA, they'll be like, okay, after 15 pages, you need to have a cliffhanger. And another 5 pages, you need another cliffhanger because this is when our commercial breaks are and all these kind of things. But we still use that. And it's cool what Netflix and these sort of series have taken away from that is going, okay, the structure of that idea works, but then we don't need to be as heavy-handed with it.
They'll take you on a ride. And also because the episodes can be as long as they want, maybe they will do a cliffhanger midway through in case you want to take a break, which is quite good,
Or in Mythic Quest, they have a standalone episode every series that has nothing to do with, it has nothing to do with the main story, but it has everything to do with the theme and the sort of feel, and usually about one or two characters and their sort of backstory. And they're just like these little art pieces, like these standalone 1 hour, absolutely gorgeous moments that I was like, this is awesome. Why haven't we been doing this? This is really, really cool. I want to see more things like this.
You start writing emails and you try to get that tone. Why were we not doing this before?
Yeah.
So yeah, I got in touch with you because I recently saw you perform, which this feels like a kind of novel thing now.
Totally.
And I mean, obviously to perform as well. And also, I've never been entertained by a toilet before. So
I think I was hoping you could first.
I was hoping you could explain to the listeners not only what the show was about that you just did for Play Pint a Pint, you did Scots, but also tell us a little bit about your character.
Well, it was hilarious. I've told everybody this story, but the director like almost couldn't get the words out. She was like, phone me before you agree to this because I don't want you to see the name on your contract of who you're playing and be like, excuse me. She was like, we really want you to play. So the story is going through Scottish history from the certain perspective, and the perspective is of who we want you to play. And I was like, Jemima, just say it. Like, it's okay. What is it? What are you so afraid of? She's like, you're gonna play a toilet. And I was like, awesome. That sounds hilarious. She's like, it's going to be very silly. It's going to be really silly. I'm like, that's my MO. Like, that's my jam. To yeah. But she'd already sold it to me. It's just like a journey of Scottish history through the perspective of Scotland's first toilet. Yeah, that sounds hilarious.
Sounds
and
great,
it was loads of fun. Scott and Claire, who are Noisemaker, who wrote the music and the story, are just, they're awesome. Like, I've got a rule that if they offer me a job, you just take it because it's going to be fun and it's going to be silly and glorious. And it was so fun. And there was a few moments that I jokingly described to my friend as Scottish accent on beast mode, because it's those like intense history things where it's like, House of Stuart at a glance, James I sent to France, 1420s home he sped, 1430s now he's dead. And it was a great show. Really, I hope there's another life in it, because it was really amazing as well, the reaction that we got from people.
Right.
Because when we were doing it, we were like, I don't know how audiences are going to take it. They could turn on us. They could be like, nah, not into this, not into talking toilet. And the fact that it starts off, it's very silly and a little bit surreal, but it was a joy to perform.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I see a lot of these things that Play Pint a Pint and Oran Mode and things like that. And what I love about it is like you get in and you get out. It's not, you don't overstay your welcome. It's nice and easy to watch.
Totally.
It's relatable, things like that. And a lot of people who speak about it, it's like, I really hope we can take this further. And I was like, there's no reason why you couldn't, because especially this one, because I think this one is definitely the best received one I've seen in a long time, where everyone was just talking about it and being really moved by it, I think. And there's no reason why this can't have life after.
I hope so. I think it would definitely not go amiss at the Fringe for sure. Yeah, I think Fringe would be perfect for it, because it's also one of those things where it's enough about. There's nothing too parochial about it. It's a celebration of Scotland without being like going to do that. And, no, it's not full of in jokes. It's
totally.
There are in jokes because you go, well, yeah, we know what happens, or for the people who know who Mary Somerville is, like there's a nice little moment of like, oh, when she comes from the back, slow clapping all the Scottish male inventors.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, who's this? And some of the older women you could hear when they go, nobody, I'm just Mary Somerville. And you could hear some of the older women go, ooh. As moments like that as well. And then where it gets to at the end, because I don't think many people expect it, because it's very silly to have an emotional punch and impact. And I think as well, the message of the story was perfect. Like, Scott and Claire just had a really nice idea that wasn't. It's obviously hard to talk about Scottish history or Scottish current events without being political, because it's one of those things where right now there's so many moments that we need to, we absolutely need rallying cries to galvanize people and make sure that human rights are being defended and things like that. But also, when you come to the theater, 90% of the people there don't want to be told political thoughts. They just want to be, they just want to be taken away from how silly and awful the world is and go, let's distract myself. And what's really lovely is the sentiment throughout the show is like, it's kind of letting go of your shit. Like whenever you can let go of your shit and just make some form of future. Like my big thing as well with like mental health stuff. It's like, it's really easy to get, as an actor in particular, when you're waiting for jobs or distracting yourself while you're waiting for other things. Moving forward in any way is always going to be a positive, in any direction, even if it's just not staying stagnant.
Yeah. Definitely.
Tangent. I don't know. Started talking about that.
We're getting political.
I know, totally. This is me saying I wasn't. Yeah.
No, it's great. It's definitely, and also seeing it, during Pride, obviously, and things, was happening in the world in terms of like the abortion stuff. Like that was right in the news at the time, and a lot of people.
Well, that
were
happened
really
that week, and we had to add something into the show because we were like, we can't have this be happening right now and not acknowledge it.
Mention it.
Well, that's one of the cool things as well about Play Pint a Pint, because they're being developed in the weeks leading up to it.
You've only got a few days, and
you've only got 2 weeks to put on the show, put it all together, and that happening the week before we opened was like, we got to talk about this. Like, there's not many, theater forms where it is new writing. And because it's new writing, it's not like, it's not like Shakespeare. And we're going to be like, dost thou agree with Roe versus Wade? Like,
people are like standing up and leaving because you're like messing with the script and stuff. It doesn't happen,
totally. No, exactly. Everybody's just there to be taken on a journey.
Yeah.
Love the air smells of pie.
and stale beer.
Yeah. What was it? Hannah Jarrett Scott, apparently she did a one-woman show and she kept calling it the Pie Dungeon. And then Jemima Levitt, because the artistic director, she got up to do the intro and was like, "Welcome to the Pie Dungeon." And she totally threw herself for the rest of the intro, because she was like, don't say that.
I mean, Jemima's done such a great job when he's taken over. Like, he's totally changed that. I mean, I'd went before she was in charge, and it was great. But now it's like, it feels like you would make an effort to make it a routine, to go, because there's so many different things on all the time. So she's been such a godsend to the whole program,
100%. Like, I think it's just livened it up a little bit and made some more immediate pieces.
Yeah. Tell me about your story then, because obviously, I don't know you personally. I don't know, like, you're not from here originally. I don't know where you got started. And when did you want to be an actor? When did that start? Was that always something from when you were wee?
So I kind of always did like little acting things and skits, and it wasn't as much like I want to be an actor thing as I wanted to entertain people.
Right. Exactly my thing too.
Yeah, I got something out of entertaining people and making people laugh, especially, and it was like I felt more comfortable in front of 500 people than I did in front of 4. Mm-hmm. Like, if you asked me to do a monologue in front of 2 people, I'd be like, nope, thank you. Whereas yeah, you can get me on stage and not even give me a script. I remember there was one moment where I was like, oh, this is a buzz. And I was like, I'd done like improv classes and had some really nice reactions from folk where I was like, oh, wow, this is quite nice. This is fun. Um, and there was one day where we had to stall for time for a show. And I just remember going out and just riffing with the audience and just like asking them questions, and people were talking back and I was sassing them, sassing them back. And it was just kind of this really comfortable, um, I don't know. It was just a way of being. And then it was kind of after that and a few other shows that people had said to me, they were like, you could probably make a living doing this. And I was like, yeah, but not really. Like,
Yeah.
we all know that it's like a 1 in a million shot to actually make a career in acting. Because the idea of like Hollywood and that kind of stuff never really appealed to me. And I wasn't even that much of like a film buff. I was into cartoons. Cartoons was my jam. Like when I was in high school, the Venture Brothers came out, and the Venture Brothers is Adult Swim cartoon.
Right.
That was just genius. Patrick Warburton is one of the voices. And I mean, I grew up watching that and Dragon Ball Z and all these kind of things. And so like a lot of my physicality and movement comes from Looney Tunes and, these
Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, Tom and Jerry, absolutely. Yeah. Like, and you may have seen a bit of that in the physicality from Scott's, where it's, and I have a pretty ridiculous body, anyways. Like, I look like a cartoon. I'm nearly 2 meters tall. I'm 6'6.5". I'm a half an inch away from. The only reason I say the half is because I'm a half an inch away from the legal qualification of a giant.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, it's. I did a KFC advert, and these two guys came in for the recall, and I was like, oh, wow, these guys look like cartoon characters. And then I got a recall, and I'm like, I am also a cartoon character.
You know what that's going to be.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm well into that. But yeah, started off doing musicals just at the high school. When I was in middle school, there was sort of joint productions where they would take the chorus members from the middle school. And I remember getting like my first line, and it was that way where nobody had microphones. It was a 400 seat. It was an auditorium, like a gym. It was basically a gymnasium. The acoustics were awful. Nobody had microphones. You just had to shout.
Yeah.
Which, when I got to drama school, turned out was really great because I had decent lung capacity for projection. But I got into, I started doing acting, and I was doing little things here and there. And it was actually a band teacher. It was a band teacher who'd sent his son to this school called Interlochen in Michigan, which was an arts boarding school. And he was like, if Tyler's serious about making a career in acting, then he should look into going to this school. And I was like, I don't know about that. But they had a summer program, and my dad and I went and auditioned. I had done competitive acting called DDF, which is drama, debate, and forensics. Not like cutting people open, like oratory. Forensics. And
glad you clarified that.
Yeah, I thought that might be confusing. And when I was a freshman, which is like basically third year of secondary school, but it's first year of high school. When I was a freshman, I won first in the state for pantomime, which is basically mime. The only rule for pantomime was that you couldn't make any noise with your mouth. And so I did this piece about a guy playing Mario, and I timed music so that every time I would like be playing the controller and I would pause it, and the music would go deep 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 deep, and I would take a drink of water. Deep 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 deep, and I would come back in. I timed all this thing, and I won first in state. It was amazing. Second year, I moved to a new school. Brand new school opened up, and I was like, awesome, I'm going to go to this new school, and we're going to totally become the new awesome team. And I had my friend Eric Kleppen, and we were going to build the team. And then we both got kicked off the team for missing 2 mandatory meetings that we didn't know about during finals week. This woman just basically wanted us off the team. I don't know what her deal was, but the week that the state competitions were that year was the week that I auditioned for Interlochen. And I went in and I did my audition, and I walked out, and my dad was like, how would you like to go here? I was like, summer camp sounds awesome. And he goes, no, we're thinking school. And I was like,
Oh.
what? Are you serious? Like, but what about my friends? What about like,
Yeah.
what about money? And I got a scholarship. I got a scholarship to go. My parents spent all my college money sending me there, and their thought was, well, you'll be able to get into a better college if you go from here than you would coming from Alaska, for sure.
Which is where you're originally from, right?
Which is where I was born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska. So first 16 years of my life was there, and then moved to Michigan for 2 years to go to high school, go to basically what was Hogwarts for the arts. Like, it was amazing. Like, people there were child prodigies from South Korea and Japan and all over. Just amazing people. One of the guys who was in my year, Charlie, was just in. Oh, what was he in? He was in the Batman. You know the twins. The security.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
So the twins. He's one of the twins. He was also in. It's Charlie and Max. Yes. Went to high school with Charlie, and
cool.
And so seeing him, he's also in Ratched, the Netflix thing about Ratchet, and Desperate Housewives and stuff. It was just like, yes, Charlie. Anyway, what was I talking about? Went to Interlochen.
You moved to Michigan, yeah.
That's it. And then they have a really good connection with Royal Scottish. So I got into Royal Scottish back before it was the Conservatoire.
Yes, very fancy.
Very fancy. And then, I came to Scotland. They did a post-study work visa. And I was able to stay and work and make connections and meet people. And then I had to go through some visa shenanigans about 5 years ago, which was amazing because the Scottish industry rallied behind me and were absolutely more supportive than I ever could have imagined. I was telling my parents at the time, I was like, I am in the best position possible because I have a bunch of pissed off Scots at my back. And they're like, he's no leaving. That's not happening. This is rubbish.
He's no leaving.
He's no leaving.
You sound like you ever seen Chewing the Fat? You know, with Ronald Villiers. Ronald Villiers.
Ronald Villiers.
I was in Taggart. I was the corpse.
That's right. I actually met. So there's a guy on my voiceover agent's books called Jay Villiers. And I was like, have you ever seen Chewing the Fat? And he was like, no, he's English. He's the voice of Tesco. And I was like, have you ever seen Chewing the Fat? There's this sketch about this guy, Ronald J. Villiers. And he was like, you presuming there's any connection? And I was like, no, I don't mean that. Because I prefaced it by being like, oh, it's about this really bad actor. He's like, so I was like, no, it's just it was funny. I'm gonna shut up now.
It's a fictional character, I swear.
Is it? Oh, but yeah, I put my foot in it. He was good chap though. He was good for him. He laughed about it afterwards.
Good. When I was not I was looking you up or anything like that, but I did, have a look on your IMDb, and I saw that you were in Where Do We Go From Here? And I haven't seen it, but I know that it's a very popular film, and you were doing a Scottish accent in it. And when you're hearing you talk now, there is some Scottish, sounding words that come out.
14 years, it's hard
to
not assimilate in some capacity.
How was obviously doing your Scottish accent in the show as well is just impeccable. How was it doing Where Do We Go From Here?
Well, so the funny thing with that, when I was in third year at the Academy, Alison Peebles was a judge for the Scots speaking competition that we had.
Nice.
And Alison plays Joan in Where Do We Go From Here, who is one of... So when John and I were casting, we were like, Alison's awesome. Like, we'd love to have Alison. But I was like, I need to be on my A game for this because, otherwise, I can't disappoint Alison Peebles. And so I just knew I had to be on my A game, and I was working away at it. But my goal when I did that Scots speaking competition was I was like, I want one of the judges to think I'm Scottish. That was my goal. I was like, I don't need to win the competition. I just need to be passable and fool the Scots. And that was my goal when I was at uni, was get a passable accent And then over the next few years, because I mean, realistically, it took me about 4 years to understand the concept of banter. Like
Right.
when somebody is ripping the pish, like absolutely ripping you and being like, oh no, this is a good thing. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, why are you doing this to me? Why is everybody so mean? I was like, oh no, they're actually like, yeah, it's banter.
Yeah, Scottish people are very friendly.
It's banter, yeah. And I was like,
people from Glasgow, I'd say. Yeah.
And there's a certain energy that like you kind of, because with accents as well, you can't just do an accent. Like
Right.
The reason why I sound really weird is because I speak in an American accent, but I say things like a Scottish person. So I'll say certain words with the emphasis that a Scottish person would say. But all my mouth structure, except for a couple vowels, where sometimes I'll say like house accidentally, it'll sound really Canadian. Going to the house, or like I'll say a boot and things like that. That's just from living in Scotland. But yeah, being the character, and it was really, John had a strong idea of the character for James, and it was also, I could kind of get away with a few things because the character was meant to be a little bit of a weirdo anyways, who'd been sort of living in an old folks home since he was, so yeah,
I saw that clip in your showreel. That's why I brought it up, because I thought it sounded really good.
Oh yeah, amazing. Class. Yes.
Yeah.
I love mac and cheese. I mean, I know it's just
the
pasta.
mac and cheese. That was it.
I know it's just pasta with cheese grated over it, but I love pasta. I love cheese.
I love pasta too. But see, in terms of accents, it's one of my favorite things to do in terms of when you're performing, right? But because I've been out of drama school for a while, it's like I've been out of practice with doing some accents, right? So since then, I had a bunch of accents on my CV, right? It was the Daniel Kaluuya way of doing it. He talks about how you put every accent on your CV because, like, of course, you'll be fine. Get in the door, you'll be fine. So, like, I had that idea, so I just put them all on there. And then you go for an audition like 2 years later, and like they ask you to do one of these accents on your CV that you've never been able to do, and you're stuck. That on top of because I usually wear glasses, but I also have contact lenses. But the part I was going for required glasses, so I wore them.
Right.
And the guy's like, "Oh, why don't you? We'll do one without the glasses." Which is fine. But then I couldn't read the script.
Yeah.
So here's me like not knowing what to say. And this horrendous accent. I think it was supposed to be like Northern Irish. It sounded kind of like it sounded Swiss or something. I don't know.
Oh no!
But it was a lesson learned that moment. So I'm very impressed with your Scottish accent.
I know directors that will specifically, if you put things on your CV, like for accent, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, how's your Geordie accent?"
Yeah. Oh man.
You know what I mean? Like they will pick
or,
the one
or instruments. Like you turn up to an audition and there's a piano waiting for you.
Yeah, that's never a good one. I went for an audition actually once that was I got the brief through because I've got drums on my CV. I can play basic drums. I can, I can play a fill, I can keep time. That's nothing super complicated. And I got an audition that said jazz drums. Oh. And I was like, I phoned my agent. I was like, jazz drums. Jazz drums is a little bit different than regular drums.
More tempo, right? Like
it's a lot more intricate. Like jazz drumming is a lot more. It's ghost notes. It's being able to do, more complicated fills. There's different timings with each hand sort of thing. You can do basic ones, but again, like for it to look like good jazz drumming, if I was to do jazz drumming, what you hear in the Birdman,
right. I was going to say Whiplash. Is that one as well?
Whiplash, totally. So it's those, like it's not just like like, and I went into this audition and it was hilarious because the gambit, they'd clearly just said like all the agents had been like, yeah, if you've got drums on your CV, just go for it. And you could hear people before being like, and you're like, whoo, my. And then there was a guy who went right before me who was like, absolutely plays weddings and, is a jazz drummer. And I was like, see, that's what they were looking for. Like, that's why they said jazz drummer and not drummer. But clarifications here.
So it was never as good.
No.
No, fair enough. It's tricky. It's tricky. Kind of, you just need to get kind of lucky sometimes that they don't bring up the most obscure parts of your CV.
Or don't put them on your CV.
In the first place, yeah. No, but I think if you can play basic drums, I think that's fair enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
no, totally. Just don't put a star next to it of like, I work at a
highly
professional,
skilled.
highly skilled in Welsh. Like,
talk to me about when you first started watching movies when you were younger. I know we've kind of rambled on, but that's fine. Tell me when you first went to the cinema. If that's an early memory that you have, or if you have any memories of watching movies from when you're really young. Do you remember like your first favorite movie or whatever?
oh well, I watched Aladdin on repeat, like literally every day when I got in primary school. Like I'm positive for like 2 years. I just watched Aladdin over and over and over and over again, and I'm sure that had something to do with the person that I am now today.
A genie.
Honestly, well, I was watching it for Robin Williams. I was watching it for Genie, but I would literally come in VHS on and sit watch, and there was that and Rock-a-Doodle. If you ever saw that.
No.
It's a really obscure, like I kind of forgot about it for a while. It's really scary as well. It's one of those sort of Fievel Goes West in tone. If you might know Fievel Goes West, but like one of these cartoons that was like in the early 90s where it's like, see when there's danger? It is shit scary. Like, you know, the clouds are swirling and there's some evil chicken. Rock-a-Doodle is a weird film anyways. It's about a rock and roll playing chicken. And I'm sure there's loads of cameos that I don't remember, like of celebrities. Where like,
Christopher Plummer's in it, and
that's it.
Glenn Campbell, Phil Harris.
Who plays the main guy again?
Toby Scott.
Ganger.
I don't know.
I felt like I recognized him, but anyway, it's one of these, or that, or They're Back, the dinosaur story with John Goodman.
Nice.
Like again, like these just obscure cartoons that, like, cartoons were built different in the 90s and 80s.
Right.
I mean, you remember Land Before Time?
Hell yeah.
That shit is tragic.
Yeah.
Like,
really,
honestly, I think if I watch that again, I just weep.
Yeah. Well, I got a wee cousin that is 6, so he's like into dinosaurs and stuff like that. So it's time to get, Land Before Time. But he's more interested in things like, the Marvel films. I want to see Spider-Man, but when I was his age, I was like, kids TV.
100%. Well, and I remember growing up in the 90s and somebody showed me like an animation from the 60s and 70s, and I was like, what is this trash? Like, right. What is this? What is this in low definition? What is it, hand drawn?
Well, listen, see, when I was wee as well, I loved Tom and Jerry and like, Looney Tunes and things like that. Tom and Jerry, I had all the videos and stuff, Land Before Time, all that stuff, like, was the best,
Totally.
I used to. But then they redid lots of stuff, didn't they? They remade them, and it just didn't look good because it looked better, and it wasn't the same.
Well, it all used to be hand drawn, and like they used to have basically an army of people coloring every cell, every bit, which is amazing. And I was watching Adult Swim a few years ago, and it was like, today for Hanna-Barbera to make a Looney Tunes cartoon, it would cost them $1 million a minute. And then it came up, but they'd probably make that all back in merchandising. Never.
Right.
Like, probably not.
Probably not. No, that's crazy. I mean, all the hand-drawn stuff, the colouring in stuff, like, I could never get my head, I still struggle now to get your head around that, how long that must take, Oh
my gosh. Well, and now, everything's just, it's all on the computer. It's so much easier, which is great because it means it can all be made. But there was something magic about those hand-drawn. And my friend is a big Disney nerd, and he has a few cells from original Disney films, and they're just like they're just made different. There's just a care. There's just a love. That
it's hopefully like one of my favorite parts about like going to like Disney World and stuff like that. If ever went on like family holidays and stuff, like in the kind of shops you'd see like stills on the wall, like Mickey Mouse, original Mickey Mouse stuff. Was it Steamboat Willie or something like that?
Steamin' Willie.
Steamin' Willie.
Yeah, Minnie. Will you jump on my big steamboat? I'm getting steaming.
There's Mickey Mouse everywhere. I know, it's
Aye.
crazy. Well, then when I asked you to pick a favourite film or a film that you love or know really well, you came back with Hook, which I was delighted with because my whole purpose of doing this is to kind of watch films I've never seen before, whether it be
Amazing.
films from the early 90s or films from the 50s or
Yeah.
brand new films that are hidden gems, things like that. So I'd never seen Hook before.
I can't believe that.
I obviously heard of it. I remember when it was first mentioned, I could picture the poster.
Yeah.
It's such a loud, bright poster.
Oh yeah.
Robin Williams, I'm a big fan. Didn't know it was Dustin Hoffman.
Honestly, it's like a Mandela effect for everybody when they find that out, especially when you're a kid and you've watched it and somebody goes, "Oh, you remember Dustin Hoffman's Hook?" And you go, "What? No, he's what?" And then you watch it and you're like, "That's Dustin Hoffman."
Yeah, and I wrote down as well, it just looks like he's having a laugh. Doesn't it? It just looks like he's having so much fun in this character.
Yeah, legit. Like, he absolutely is. I mean, you can tell. And all of his choices as well are really interesting. There's just like, he plays it really honestly. He plays it. And the fact that the film is called Hook, like, actually got me thinking a little bit more about like the reasons why and the motifs. And the whole, like, he is sort of the evil parent because he's not lying. He's saying, like, in all of his moments with the kids, he's like, they don't like you. They used to stay up all night and have more fun before you were born. And the way he plays it is actually, he's playing this like really kind, and it's so evil. It's great. Like,
he's like manipulating them.
Yeah. It's the same thing with like Alan Rickman when he's Hans Gruber. He's not playing evil.
Right.
He's there to get a job done. And if somebody's going to get in the way, then he's going to get rid of them. And it's not a personal thing. It's just, he's not evil. He's just poorly motivated.
Oh God, Die Hard's so good.
I only just watched that this year. I'd never seen Die Hard, and I was honestly like, part of me was ready to say Die Hard. I had my other. Well, you were saying about like things that I had like early cinema memories. The two DVDs I had in high school were Sin City and The Animatrix.
Oh yeah, nice.
And those were like, I mean, obviously, when I was in high school, I was like, Sin City's my favorite film. And then
way cooler.
Yeah, it's so cool. And then I grew up and was like, yeah, Sin City was fun. Like, it's a comic book film. It's not necessarily the greatest. It's great. I love films that do little sort of sections. And Animatrix as well was brilliant for me. I don't know if you've seen it. Like,
years ago.
Like, I used to watch it like every other month, mostly for the Second Renaissance Part 1 and 2. And that, which is basically what explains how the Matrix world got to where it is, it was just like, whoa, this is awesome. And the fact that each one of those films also had a different animation style. Anyway, back to Hook.
Well, what I was going to say, you were talking about Die Hard. I was going to say, since you had never seen Die Hard, that makes me feel a little bit better about never seeing it.
Yeah. It's fair enough. That's fair enough. No, there was one night this Christmas in December when me and my girlfriend we watched 3 films that I'd never seen before, 3 Christmas films. I'd never seen: Die Hard, Miracle on 34th Street, and It's a Wonderful Life. So I watched them all in one day, and I was not disappointed by any of them. I was like, okay, I get it. Miracle on 43rd, that film made me weep. Like,
wait, which one did you watch? The like 90s one?
The 90s one with what's her name?
Richard Attenborough.
Yes. And Mara, what's her name? Rooney? No, not Mara Rooney. You know who I'm talking about from Matilda.
Yeah.
Honestly, like every time she opens her mouth in that film, I was like welling up. I was just like, she's so
Mara Wilson. Yeah.
Mara Wilson. There we go. That was an absolute gem. I was like, why? This is so much better than I expected.
Total banger.
And same with Die Hard. Like, Die Hard is kind of a perfect film. Like, I get why cinema nerds are like, yep, but then this is how I feel about Hook, because my instinct was like, I have other contenders. Like, In Bruges is definitely up there for me. Like, anything Martin McDonagh. Like, I just saw 3 Billboards, and for me, that is why you make a film. Like, if you have that story, then you have to tell it through film.
Yeah.
Like, watching all those characters' journeys, and they're not what you expect. And I think Martin McDonagh is really great at writing those twists and turns. Like, if you've ever read The Pillow Man or any of his plays, they are genius.
Yeah, what was the one? A behanding in Spokane. I did
Yeah, but
a
behanding
bit
in
from that
Spokane.
in college. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
That was the one, was it Sam Rockwell and
yeah.
Christopher Walken did on Broadway? I would have loved to have seen it.
Man, jeez. I mean, Sam Rockwell in Three Billboards is just unbelievable. And those films, Martin McDonagh's films, like,
Yeah.
it sounds really cringy, but it's like they remind you why you want to be an actor.
Yeah,
I want
legit
to be
though.
in these films and these productions,
100%. But it's the
Yeah.
way of storytelling. It's like he uses every part of the storytelling to tell the story, which sounds really guff, but it makes sense in my head. Like, have you ever seen Six Shooter, which was his first short film that won an Oscar, and it's Brendan Gleeson.
Right.
And like, just when a story moves like that, and I think Hook does this as well. And I forgot that it was Steven Spielberg that directed Hook, but
I
it
didn't.
moves.
Well, I did know, but it wasn't until I read it and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's a Spielberg film."
And you go, "Oh, okay, that kind of makes sense." Why it just takes you on a journey, and once it sets off, it just goes. You're not sitting there waiting to be told a story. And there's different paces. Coen brothers do a little bit more of that. They're like, come on in and we'll tell you a story.
We'll reward you for it later. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. We promise there's going to be a payoff, but you need to sit with these characters for a little bit and you need to be uncomfortable with them for a little bit. Yeah. Whereas Spielberg it's much more about clipping along and that journey. And I think McDonough does the same thing, where it's like there's an economy of storytelling. So everything that is in it comes back in some way, like, which I think is genius. Yeah. And I think in a lot of ways, Hook does that too, between the little moments, but with Hook, it's moments of sweetness. With In Bruges, it's moments of tragedy or comedy, like Run Home Jack. And all the little themes about flying and the fact that Peter Banning is afraid of flying, but he's Peter Pan. What is also really, really fascinating for me about Hook is they've taken, this is basically a sequel. It's a sequel to a story that we all know.
To Peter Pan, yeah.
To Peter Pan. But
I think about it like that, yeah.
It leaves so much of the source material untouched without ever actually like going into it too much, because I'm not really that big a fan of Peter Pan. Like the story, I can take it or leave it. It's like, yeah, cool, all right. But although, have you heard the theory? Well, it's not a theory. It was like sort of the original lore of Peter Pan is that he ushered children to the world of the dead.
I didn't know that. No,
it's a little bit grim. And the idea is that Captain Hook was actually the first child that he tried to usher to the land of the dead. And he grew up, and Hook's the only one that remembers what Pan does. And he gets all the pirates, and that's why the pirates and the children are fighting, because the children are the children that he doesn't take to the land of the dead. He leaves them in Neverland so that they'll never grow up and they'll never die. And the pirates are the people who've grown up.
I would have made the film take a bit of a dark turn.
Yeah. Well, so there's one thing that they keep saying throughout the film as well, and it's one of the big sentiments about the original story, which is death would be an awfully great adventure. And the last line of Hook is, because they've said it, I think 2 or 3 times before, is that death would be an awfully great adventure. And the last line of the film is living would be an awfully great adventure. And I think it's really, really lovely being able to take a story like that did have this sentiment about death and totally turn it on its head. And it's all about hope. And it's still about not growing up, but it's about dealing with your problems while growing up. And the idea of losing yourself. Like, I've written down I've got like, what is it? 7 points that made me cry. Yeah, pretty much. Like, there's 7 points of that film that I just, like, involuntarily, there's a sweetness that I just can't.
Yeah. It was lovely to see, and it was lovely to watch, because again, you obviously have that memory of watching Hook from when you were younger, like I'm assuming so.
Oh yeah.
And then like you've watched it all your life, and now it's like one of your favorite films. And I know it's like, I say, picking your favorite film is like the second hardest question in the world.
Yeah.
The first being, what's your favorite food? But like, there's so many moments in it where you're like, this would have moved me even more if I was a wee guy, if I was really younger,
absolutely.
and then growing up with that because you are growing up,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I get. Not that I get emotional or anything like that, but it is quite important and quite moving when you hear things like that, like the thought of moving and growing up, and like it's no longer appropriate to do certain things, and it's no longer fun to do certain things, and that's kind of scary a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how old you are, but like I'm 25 this year, so I'm like 25 is like that's like a grown up age, and I'm not ready to be near 30. You know what I mean? I'm still a big kid at heart.
I hear you. I'm 33, and I'm like. But then I think there's something that I've noticed with a lot of my friends. You get to like 27 or 28 and something changes, and you kind of go,
really?
Ooh, what am I doing? What am I doing? I don't know. It's just a different kind of thing. But I do think there is something in that. I think of growing up, knowing these moments. Also, I know the lines.
Right.
When he gets to the little kid and he's got Peter's face and he just makes him smile and he goes, "Oh, there you are, Peter." It's moments like that where I'm just like, oh, geez, whoa. Yeah, he lost himself and he just needs to smile more. But what they do with very little dialogue and these little moments, like the first time when they all start standing for Granny Wendy, when they're all like one by one, and it's this Spartacus moment of, all of them showing their love, and it's Maggie Smith, and you're just like, it's Maggie Smith. She's just awesome. Although she's like she's like 93 now, and she made that when she was in her 60s playing an 80-year-old. It's like Maggie Smith has been playing like senior citizens since the 90s.
Yeah, and somehow Professor McGonagall looks younger than 100%. Wendy.
Yeah. Oh, they definitely aged her up for that. She like her walking with a cane and stuff. But yeah. I think you're right. Like with those themes and getting older, and I think as well, Robin Williams. Anytime you put a comedic actor in a role with drama, a role that like, because it is a comedy, it's a total romp, but like imagining putting a serious actor into that part,
it
would have been rubbish.
Yeah, it kind of makes you take note, doesn't it? Especially someone like Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Because when I think of Robin Williams, I immediately like think, funny, and I laugh and I smile and stuff like that because he's that wholesome actor. But even really early in the film where he like shouts at his kids, like really aggressively.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes you aback a little bit. You go, Robin Williams, don't do that. It's strange.
Well, the whole film is watching a friend. And it needs to have that feeling of watching a friend who's lost themselves. And so, because I was thinking about it earlier as well, because he doesn't play any of the clumsiness. Like, he doesn't. There's so many points where he like falls into the camera, and he doesn't mug. Like, there's never any moments where he's like, "Oh no, I've hurt myself," or it's always he's playing a lawyer because he's a lawyer. He's not Peter Pan yet. He's a lawyer, and so when he like runs into things, he's like, which is ultimately so much funnier than. Yeah. And so even I think like the maturity of Robin Williams and what testament to what a dramatic Goliath he was, because he knew when to play the comedy and when not to play the comedy. And there's also clearly moments that were him improvising. When Tinkerbell comes in through the flat and he just goes, "It's like a firefly from hell." And even the frame, you can tell that he's just run. He knows where the camera is stopped and then run through. He's probably just meant to run right through.
Yeah.
There's so many little improvs that you just go, that was totally Robin Williams. Well, and speaking of improvs, Yippee-Ki-Yay from
Die Hard.
That was improv. He was just doing it for the cameraman's benefit, and it became one of the coins for one of the phrase for the franchise.
One of my my podcasting friends, they were going to start their movie podcast, and they were going to call it Yippee-Ki-Yay Movie Lovers.
That's pretty good.
They said it was too much for a mouthful.
That's a lot. Yippee-Ki-Yay Movie Lovers.
Movie Lovers.
That's good. I like that.
So that was good. So Robin Williams playing like the kind of childlike tendencies of Peter Pan. I've never played a character like that. I can imagine it be really difficult to kind of hold that, you know, like
Yeah.
having to do those childlike. I mean, obviously, and it's really interesting as well. It's early 90s, 91, I think. Yeah,
Mm.
91. It's interesting seeing the CGI kind of aspects of the films, like making them fly, in a, you know, for example,
Yeah.
and
Well, it's all
Tinkerbell and
ropes.
stuff like that. It would have been on ropes, but
Yeah.
like things like that, like it's the way it's kind of evolved. But it doesn't
Yeah.
look. I'm really good at watching old films and being like, oh well, I'm not gonna, you know, go, oh, this is a bit dated. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
never like that. I'm quite happy to
Yeah.
just kind of watch whatever. But it's really interesting. I find it interesting how, like, in terms of the making of the film, seeing how Robin Williams kind of transforms into that kind of
Yeah.
childlike tendency of Peter Pan, but
Yeah.
also not looking phased by, you know, doing a backflip because he's flying, and you know what I mean,
Totally.
like speaking to people who's in the air and things like that. It's really interesting to watch.
No, I think like their use of practicals is just awesome, and like all the pirate ship sets that they had, and
Yeah,
the like I was watching it just going, gosh, this must have been a huge build.
yeah,
Like the whole Lost Boys cave and the pirate ship, and one of my favorite, this is like unashamedly one of my favorite pieces of music is the Hook song.
yeah,
And I think it was the first instance that I'd heard of a song that it does, because it doesn't modulate. It just like it goes, or no, it modulates up, and so it does, dun, 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 and then it goes, dun, 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 and it eventually ends up back in the original key. But like this building sound of this fun pirate jaunt, but the keys change, which really is like a tension thing, and you go, oh, what's coming, and they're just going, hook, hook, give us a hook, and it's literally the probably 20 seconds of them just carrying the hook to show
yeah,
Captain Hook, and it's the first time we see him. But it's the musically, there's so many moments in that film as well, and I know that I was specifically listening to moments of the score at the point
yeah.
that inevitably I got emotional, where you have these huge swells. And I don't know if you noticed as well, because it's John Williams that does the score. There's so many moments where it does an interval that is nearly Harry Potter. It
Right.
does dun dun da da dun da da dun da da so many times, like throughout, and that's just, I mean, John Williams.
I
He
mean, you know, there's other composers out there,
uh
right? However, it's like when you watch a film and it's John. You know, first of all, it's
you
like
know it's
directors, right?
John
You
Williams.
know who it is, you know, before you even look it up. I
Yep.
did look up, and I was like, I bet this is John Williams, and it was.
Yup.
But like, how many has he done? Like, how many
Oh
classics and like that just stand the test of time? Other
man.
composers are great, but for some reason, this
Yeah.
guy has
Yeah.
got some magic touch on these films and stuff.
I mean, I wish I knew. Well, to be fair, like my old flatmate is, he's like, well, you know, John Williams stole a lot, and I go, oh,
Yeah, but still, though, you have to compose it, you know? Like, I
well,
don't know.
100%. And like, I mean, but it's also, this is a funny thing as well, because I'll talk to other musicians and they'll talk about like Hans Zimmer, because Hans Zimmer's
Right?
scores as well. Like another one of my probably top films, I've not seen it in years, but did you ever see Prince of Egypt?
No, but I've got a mate that loves it, and I know that
It is
it's great
awesome.
soundtrack. Yeah.
Like the soundtrack and every song is just like there's one song that gives me chills literally just thinking about it, and it's the Lullaby. When like Moses is found in the basket, but it says,
Right.
"Hush now, my darling, don't sleep now, don't cry," and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, this is gorgeous!" Right? And Hans Zimmer, I think, is another one of those, but Hans Zimmer doesn't read music, so he
Right.
plays it all out, and then a lot of the credit, I think, should probably also go to their arrangers or their,
True.
the other people, because
Yeah.
yeah, what they do is just, well, and recently, oh, what's his name? He did the score for Mandalorian, and
Oh, yeah.
what is his name?
The
He's
Mandalorian score is great.
oh, so
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun,
simple,
dun-dun-dun,
but really
dun-dun-dun-dun.
effective. And I think that's what John Williams did as well. I think John Williams understood that you need riffs. Like
Yeah.
you need a line that you can hook onto.
No pun intended.
Yeah, well done.
There you go. Boom.
Get out. No. But there's like little moments where like it's really complicated piano-y things, but it's all about the energy of the moment, like the use of music, because they even telegraph moments in Hook where they start playing right before Tinkerbell comes, they're already playing the sort of, and then you see him just standing looking, and then the moment he sees Tink is when it proper comes in,
like builds to it.
and it builds, but it's really like the building is really subtle, and it starts well before the moment. It was just one of the first times I'd watched the film, really listening to and watching. You know about the cameos, right?
No, you enlighten me.
Well, so remember when the kids are kidnapped and the police detective is in the house?
Yes,
that's Phil Collins.
Okay.
You remember the pirate in the boo box?
There was so many pirates. I think so.
But you remember the one that's like when Hook's like, "There's one among you who has betrayed me," and there's the dude with the blue eyes and the beard who gets put. He's like, "It was me," and he puts in the booth. That's Glenn Close.
Oh, really?
Yes. And then the last one was, is it Neil? Was it from Crosby, Stills and Nash? One of the guys. Yeah. Anyway, he's the pirate that gets thud butt when he's hitting the boards and it's knocking pirates into the water.
Nuts, yeah.
And he hits him in the nuts. Yeah, it's Crosby from Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Thud butt was my favorite character. Maybe not of the whole film.
Amazing.
It's so good.
See, one of the best deliveries in that film is when he gives Toodles marbles back. He goes, "These are Toodles. This is marbles." And he goes, "Wow, he really did lose his marble." He goes, "Yeah, he lost him good." It's just joyous.
Yeah. I like when he was rolling down the hill.
Oh yeah, yeah.
His ankles.
Thud butt. What does he say? Thud ball? I can't remember.
What do you make of Julia Roberts playing Tinkerbell? Because that's a huge casting. And I was like, you know what? Julia Roberts is a strange choice for Tinkerbell. Yeah. But then when it's like full sized, you go, all right, okay, well, there you go. But like in terms of small Tinkerbell, Julia Roberts is a strange choice, but she's beautiful.
Totally. Well, and I think, again, like choosing for basically a sequel, all of the sort of different ways of storytelling, the different themes that they chose, like with Tinkerbell, because they're grown up. You know, Peter's grown up now. It's not like he's a child, but she's always been in love with Peter. There's always been those sort of themes throughout it. So it's like, but they actually explore it. They went into it where it's like, and she knows that she can't be with him. It's this really quite tragic storyline. It's really emotional. So I actually think Julia Roberts was a perfect person for that because she has a really nice lightness throughout. And even like all the whole bits of when she falls down the stairs and she's like, "I'm dead. You said fairies don't exist." And she's like, "Come on, louder. You have to clap. Louder." And she's really quite fun and all those moments between her and Robin. But yeah, I wouldn't have thought Julia Roberts for Tinkerbell if I was casting, but
who would that be now? Who would you really Tinkerbell now?
Gosh,
I don't know why I think Lily James would be quite good at Tinkerbell.
Yeah. What's her name from The Good Place?
Reese Witherspoon?
No.
Who's in The Good Place?
What's her name? Sorry, I've got my.
Here we go. Kristen Bell.
Kristen Bell.
Yeah,
she'd be a good Tink.
Good shout.
Yeah,
absolutely. What about any other Robin Williams films that you like? So you mentioned Aladdin. A couple of weeks ago or a couple of episodes ago on the podcast, we did Dead Poets Society.
Oh, great
which is a classic. And of course, that a wee moment that I kind of recognised during this film, during Hook, is that when who is it? Oh, what's his name at the end when he starts flying? What's the character's name?
Toodles?
Who's lost his marbles?
Oh, yeah. Toodles.
Yeah. And he shouts, "Seize the day." And that's like the message of Dead Poet Society.
Oh, there's another moment where is it Hook or one of the kids do a Good Morning Vietnam reference?
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah.
Like, I honestly think they were just like, well, we've got Robin. Robin was probably saying, can we throw in a little "Good Morning Neverland" and like they even pull out of his mouth the same. It's like,
I bet they did that on set, and he was like, "Right, okay, guys, I get it."
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I think as well, if you've got Robin Williams at hand. He was basically an on-staff writer, for the amount of just genius stuff that he came out with. I remember hearing about when he was doing Friend Like Me in Aladdin. Apparently they went in, taught him the song, he sang it through twice, and they just did 3 takes, and everything that was in the film was from those 3 takes.
Wow.
He was just improvising and throwing all of these things around, and it was just, they were like, this is amazing, like lightning in a bottle. Like,
yeah.
But
definitely.
I mean, there's so many Robin Williams films. Mrs.
Doubtfire is the obvious, seems to be the most popular one.
Yeah.
But I would say Good Will Hunting's probably my favorite. I don't know though. I liked Dead Poets. I like Good Morning Vietnam a lot. Just Googled it here. There's actually a lot I haven't seen.
Yeah, actually. You know what I was thinking about actually is What Dreams May Come. Did you ever see that?
No.
Highly recommend it. It's a little bit like Hook in it's like Robin Williams in a sort of really strange magical world. Exploring. It is another one that is like complete tragicomedy. Like he is the perfect person to play this role because it is both extremely troubled and troubling, but also he has the right sense of humor to be able to deal with the subject material. And I remember watching that when I was a kid and just being like, woo.
Yeah. Cool. I'll definitely check that one out. Last question on the film then. This is the Good Bit podcast. Can you tell me what you think the best bit of the film is? Or maybe not the best bit, but what's your favourite bit of Hook? Hard question, right?
I have to say the scene that I really enjoyed when watching it again was with Dustin Hoffman and Bob Hoskins.
Right.
Also, Bob Hoskins' Smee is just
so
perfection. But the scene where they are, they just have such a good relationship. Where he's going, "Stop me, Smee." First of all, he has the idea that he's going to kill himself, and he just you see the look in his eyes, and he's so happy. Like Hook is like overjoyed. Like that was the moment where I was like, "Oh, Dustin Hoffman's just making all the best choices right now," and it's the kind of choices that make the rules for these kind of things. Because now you can't just do that. You can't just be like, "Oh, I'm going to have a terrible idea. I'm going to be really happy about it," because Dustin Hoffman did it so well. And then, and it's Bob Hoskins' little moments of, "Oh, not again." And he's like, "Oh, this again. Stop me, Smee. Try and stop me. I'm pulling the lever. Don't stop me. Stop me, Smee. Try and stop me." And then he's like, "Oh, God, you can't do this, Captain." And he's like, "Don't ever do that. Don't ever scare me like that against me." Like,
it's such a funny relationship.
It's such a funny relationship, and the fact that they've been there forever, and he clearly like goes through. He goes, "Are you being dramatic again?" It's like, there's a lovely sense of history and fun, and then they have that lovely moment of discovering. Oh, this is another reason why I absolutely loved it. And I never realized this until it's one of the only Dutch angles in the film. And they do 3 in the same shot. And it's when Bob Hoskins goes, "Lightning has just struck my brain." And he has the idea that that Hook should make his kids, Robin Williams' kids, love him. He should make Peter Pan's kids like him. And as he has the thought, it goes Dutch angle to the left, and then he steps forward and it does another Dutch angle to the right.
Oh.
And then it goes even closer and it goes back again. And every time it cuts to Hook's on a left angle as well. But the way it plays is like, oh, how have I never noticed that? It's so effective.
Right.
I was like, it's one of those things that like sometimes you feel a shot more than you notice it. Like as a kid, I'd always felt like this weird creeping sense in that scene, but that was just joyous.
Yeah, I love rewatching films. I always say I enjoy the film the second time I watch it, but then when you kind of get to know it a bit more, there's so many things you notice. You go, where has this been the whole time,
Totally. Well, there's some films that I really enjoy watching, once, and I was like, I wish I could rewatch that again. Like Inception, I wish I could watch that for the first time again.
Right.
And like the discovery of those moments of being like, oh, what? But
Yeah, not knowing what's coming. Sometimes it helps, but other times it's like you want to kind of be in the unknown a little bit, you know?
and sometimes films are just comfort food where you just
Absolutely.
go, I know what I'm going to get, and I know I'm going to love it.
Yeah, I know. Wait to hear this line. This is going to be really funny.
Exactly.
All right. So, what have you got? Anything coming up that you want to promote? Talk about anything? Obviously, it's a tough question. We're in tough times right now.
About to start a job, but there hasn't been an announcement for it yet, so
got
I
you.
can't really say. But yeah, and other stuff I'm doing Panto at the end of the year. I'm doing Tron Panto this year.
Great.
So I'm psyched about that. And then other stuff is CBeebies. If you've got
nice. Yes, that's another thing I was supposed to mention to you. Okay,
yeah.
So my girlfriend has been watching her little cousin recently, who's 1.5.
Yeah.
I think. And when I told her that I was talking to you today, I had your Twitter up on my phone, and obviously in I think it's a banner or a cover photo.
Yeah.
You've got, is it Swashbuckle?
Yep.
And she was like, "Oh my god, tell us about that." I forgot to ask you about that earlier on.
Oh, it's so much fun. Like honestly, before the pandemic, I was literally starting my day in a ball pit. And
can you ask for anything more?
Honestly, I was like either jumping in a bounce house, although that is exhausting. As I don't know if as an adult when's the last time you jumped on a trampoline?
Actually, the other day.
Oh, all right, okay.
I wanted to see if I can still do a flip.
Oh, that's hilarious. But how knackering is it?
It's exhausting though, yeah.
It's like I used to be able to jump up and down over and over and over and over and over again, and now, nope, absolutely not. Like 3 bounces, and I'm like,
right?
How do we do this for hours at a time? But yeah, Swashbuckle is so much fun, and I'm really, really lucky. The producers all let me have a bit of wiggle room of just playing around with stuff and being like, if I come in with an energy of something, they'll be like, yeah, go for it, try it,
go for it. Yeah,
what's the worst we could say? We'll say no, and then we'll do it again. It's like great.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I'd love to do like a CBeebies show or something. I feel like it'd be quite challenging, but then like really rewarding at the same time.
Well, we filmed 44 episodes in 33 days.
Oh,
so that was a little bit intense. But it's the reaction from folk has been amazing, and the people at CBeebies as well. They make kids television, and it's an absolute tragedy that CBBC is getting cut.
Right. And Disney Channel is no longer a thing because of Disney Plus.
Like, I don't know. It's a weird time. I think as a society, you can tell a lot about that society on whether or not they feel like investing in their children.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like education, entertainment, and safety. Like if you don't want to invest in any of those things for the younger generation, then you can't expect them to to be kind to you when they grow up and they're like, well, you didn't care about us. So yeah. Hopefully, I mean, more sort of cultivating of these kind of programmings for kids and young adults would be great.
Yeah, like develops you and stuff. Like I had so shows I used to watch that made me want to be an actor and maybe want to perform and things like that. So,
Blue Peter. Yeah. I know people who have been inspired to go into creative or scientific professions because of Blue Peter.
Yep, totally. And things like Keenan and Kel, which I watched all the time. The Amanda Show.
Totally.
Like the Amanda Show made me want to have my own show. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to be in charge and have all these skits and things like that. Yeah.
Well, when you're too young to enjoy Saturday Night Live, you had the Amanda Show and all that.
Absolutely.
And Kablam as well. Do you remember that?
I didn't know that one.
Oh, that was...
No, I didn't know that one.
Honestly, there's so many kind of things like that I think, I don't know. I think we're missing out if we cut that and we don't make things. Yeah. I also think there's a lot of merit that should be put into making things that are funny for everybody and not specifically for children, just making things that are funny for everybody. That means like it doesn't have to be inappropriate to be funny.
Yeah, everybody in my family, we always used to watch Keenan and Kel. We used to watch Drake and Josh, things like that. This one was a little bit later, but did you ever watch iCarly?
No, I didn't.
So that came out around 2000 and I want to say
Was that the one that
8.
Ariana Grande was in? No,
No, it
that
was
was Karen
Victorious.
something. Oh,
This is
okay.
Miranda Cosgrove and stuff. And
Yeah.
iCarly was like, she started her own web show, and it was right at the start of like when YouTube was becoming a thing. I can
Yeah.
guarantee you that so many people started a YouTube channel who are making a living off of YouTube now who watched iCarly.
Because
So
of that.
it's really important. Yeah.
That's really interesting. It's development. It's so many things. And again, like cartoons informed who I am as a person.
Yeah.
Legit.
But like, imagine you didn't have that, Imagine
Yeah.
you didn't have that.
Oh, 100%. Like, or if, commissioning editors had just been like, no, that's ridiculous. Why would we want to make a
Right.
cartoon? That's for children. You go, well, maybe it is for children. Maybe we want to make things for children. Even The Simpsons. And
Simpsons was exactly what I was thinking about. Family
like,
Guy.
even like, honestly, before I was actually thinking before this, I was like, should I pick something that is animated because I feel so passionately about animated things? Like one of the first things that I saw in cinema, not the first things, but I went to go, like one of my birthdays was to go see Shrek. And like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
nobody doesn't like Shrek, like the first one.
Right.
Like there's nobody. People that hate cartoons, people that hate comedy, they're like, Shrek's pretty good. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Shrek is funny. I like Shrek 2 a little bit better, I think, though.
Oh, yeah? Oh, I've not seen
think
it
so, I
in
don't know.
ages.
I don't know.
But the first one was just a classic. It was like line for line, pound for pound. You were like,
Still
this is great.
Yeah.
Very quotable.
Absolutely. We actually did Shrek on the podcast a few weeks ago, a few months ago.
I saw that. Yeah.
And like we were talking about it, it's like, imagine that wasn't cast the way it's cast. Imagine anybody else being Donkey,
You
Like,
can't.
It's crazy.
It wouldn't have. Like, I think as well, like when you get people like that, Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy and Cameron Diaz and these people that are John Lithgow,
playing the wee guy.
you cast John Lithgow, he's going to bring so much more than just like, he's not just going to be the baddie. He's going to be really, really horrible, but also oddly likable. You're like, you still want him to come back. Like,
yeah.
And cartoons, there's so much more that you could do without a budget, that I think, and even storytelling. I'm really interested in dream logic and like things like even like The Waking Life. Did you ever see that? This Waking Life? It was like a weird, or what was the other one with Keanu Reeves? Scanner Darkly.
All right,
Weird sort of half animated rotoscope kind of. I don't know, but I don't know. Cartoons have
many
merit.
good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So many good ones. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Tyler. It's been an absolute pleasure. And chatting about a film like Hook is always going to warm up someone's day.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. Well, thanks so much for having me.
No, please come back. Please come back for another episode. Maybe you can do one of your animation films. We can chat about that.
Yeah, I'm up for that. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for listening, everybody, or for watching this episode of the Good Bit Podcast. Please take care of yourselves, and we'll catch you all down the road.
Citizens